that is pretty much my practice now. Beautiful visions of the future. I will be the light wherever I go.
And you speak to that, right? Around even what spirituality means. So, how do we be the light? It's like looking at spirituality. I know you know what you said because you've written about it, but can we just integrate that piece right now for anyone who's curious? But how do I be the light in the midst of chaos?
It's actually really Jungian. You get in the dark night of the soul and you're looking, looking, looking. Oh my God, we're so panicked. We're in hell. And who's got the answer and the guru and the 12 steps? And you just want to get out of pain. And you realize it's so poetic, but like you realize that you're the light. What does that even mean? That you're the light. It means like, wow, you actually have the answer.
Yes.
You think you're the most lost. Like, you know how to get out of this. You know how you got into it. You know what's going to be nourishing. You know what makes you happy. And
Mm.
you have the strength and you realize, well, I'm the flashlight in this shit show.
Ah, feels so good to have you back. Welcome, Danielle, back to Fire and Soul.
Back to fire and soul. What else is there? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. It's been like 3.5 years since you've been on the show, but I want to say we did record one many months ago when I was in a relationship that I thought would go the distance, but it was exactly as it was meant to. And I was like, you know what, would you mind? And I love that you said yes and you were flexible because now we are here in a whole new season of your life. So we
Mm.
have lots to fill in. But
Mm.
first, I just want to say congratulations on getting engaged to Will. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yep. Super fresh. Thank you.
I know, so fresh, like 5 days fresh. Yeah.
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 Not even. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to share any of like the highlights of what that moment was like?
The highlights is that he asked, like I held out for, there were so many times I just look at him and be like, ask me to marry you. Ask me now. Or I thought, I'll just be all liberated and just say, let's get married. Come on. Let's get married. And I just like, no, no. Like,
Proud of you. That's amazing.
yeah. And I mean, one thing I know about Will is he always comes through, even if we're dancing on a different track, dude shows up. And it was really important for me, not for him to prove himself, but just to just be like, be patient, Danielle. Trust the timing. Trust the timing. And
Mhm.
it's great astrological timing. Prior to that, like really just a week prior, would not have been as easy, as flowy. It's been like, Venus retrograde and all this cleansing and scraping the bottom of the barrel of your issue stuff, which we did. And, we'll continue to do, but yeah, it's great. Yeah, love.
And I feel so especially moved by everything you just shared because I had the privilege of meeting him in person.
Mhm.
And you had a small gathering in LA, and we happened to be at the same end of that dinner table. And I asked him, in his words, what was it like meeting you? And to get to hear, he held court for a good 45 minutes.
He did,
And it
didn't he?
was so deeply moving. And I was like, okay, I totally get it. The whole thing came together, right? Because I didn't know him,
Yeah.
snippets here and there on social, but I was like, man, this is beautiful. I'm getting the full body chills just remembering that moment because I remember him saying, I don't know if anyone's asked me. Remember that? And so he
Mm-hmm.
got to share his version, and you were like a young woman in love with him. Your energy. That's what I was so moved by. And I didn't expect to talk about this at all with you right now, but didn't expect you to be engaged. Neither did you. But I remember being so moved by how molded and integrated the two of you were energetically, right? And then, of course, physically. And I was so inspired by that, deeply, deeply inspired. But also, even when he was holding court, like you, Miss Queen, everything, right? Just so full in your power, let him, gave him that grace, but just held like the physical interaction was what was so intoxicatingly inspiring for me. So I want to reflect that too, because I don't think I've mentioned that. It was a beautiful, energetic to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Yeah, I'm just stoked for you.
Mm.
Really stoked. Which brings me to then where I want to pivot, which is, you've written a lot about, how to let go, not really the how so much these days, but the letting go and seeing what remains. And I love that because there's a lot of, I think, Well, I know for sure a lot of listeners of Fire and Soul are like, they want to dream, they want to hope, they want to have vision, but they don't necessarily know how with the world falling apart. And I've
Mhm.
witnessed your journey and you've shared about your journey these past many years. And so I just will pause there, whatever might want to come through of just opening the conversation around how to begin to get curious or connected to that that space of how do you hope? How do you dream? How do you vision in these times that we are all feeling so deeply?
Mm. One, I think we stop trying to hold things together. Like they have to fall apart. I mean, even in our own lives, we know, like we thought, oh my gosh, this is falling apart. And then you get to the other side and this is so cliche to say now, but it's like, well, that was happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that fell apart. Now I know more who I truly am and something bigger, better, brighter, truer can come in.
Mhm.
And if that works on like the micro level of our lives, that has got to be what's going on a planetary scale.
Yeah.
So all of this is necessary, crazy unpleasant,
Mm.
um, sometimes terrifying.
Yes.
And I make it it's actually like a spiritual practice I have now to have beautiful visions of the future.
Mm.
That's my actual term for it. I got
Mhm.
to have, sometimes I say it just like, I got to affirm it for myself. It's like, okay, Danielle, beautiful visions of the future.
Mm.
Because not having beautiful visions of the future is anxiety inducing.
Mm.
And we all know, I mean, anybody listening to Fire and Soul, it's just, I mean, we get the basics of manifesting.
Yeah.
You step into your visions, those visions create thoughts and behaviors, and they're magnetic and all of that. And I'm really down with this has been the last couple of years, really down with the word, the concept, the practice of antidote.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
like I want to be the antidote.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like just having spent the week in New York where it's just so chaotic and it's all sorts of amazing things, but it is filthy
Mhm.
and loud and really hard on one's nervous system.
Yeah.
And I just like decided I will be the organization in this chaos.
Mm.
I don't have to leave this chaos to regulate my nervous system.
Beautiful.
I'm going to be centered, even if I don't have time to meditate in the morning because I'm jet lagged and I got to go to the thing and thing. And that is pretty much my practice now. Beautiful visions of the future. I will be the light wherever I go.
Yeah, I love that. And your podcast that came out this morning, I binged it twice. And as I speak in real time, we're October 4th. So I don't remember the title, but it was all around spiritual bypassing, spiritual glamour, and a whole bunch of topics that were so good. And you speak to that, right? Around even what spirituality means. So how do we be the light? It's like looking at spirituality. I know you know what you said because you've written about it, but can we just integrate that piece right now for anyone who's curious? But how do I be the light in the midst of chaos?
It's actually really Jungian. Carl
Mm.
Jung, the psychotherapist, where you get in the dark, you get in the dark night of the soul, and you're looking, looking, looking. Oh my God, we're so panicked. We're in hell, and who's got the answer and the guru and the 12 steps, and you just want to get out of pain. And you realize it's so poetic, but like you realize that you're the light. What does that even mean? That you're the light. It means like, wow, you actually have the answer.
Yes.
You think you're the most lost. Like, you know how to get out of this. You know how you got into it. You know what's going to be nourishing. You know what makes you happy. And
Mm.
you have the strength and you realize, wow, I'm the flashlight in this shit show. And yeah, I forgot the question, but yeah.
It's okay. I was reflecting on something else, which is like, okay, what if I don't really know how to be spiritual or I'm allergic, right? Because it's such a loaded term and it's so misused or overly used or whatever. But you
Oh,
said
yeah.
spirituality is thinking with love or as love.
Thinking with love, and then you
Yeah, with
realize you are love. Yeah, I think it's undefinable. Undefinable or indefinable, whatever the grammar is.
love.
You can't wrap your head around it, but it's like a spiritual practice, a spiritual life
Yeah.
is I am going to think loving thoughts,
Mm.
and that will help me behave lovingly and have loving speech, and that will create a more loving reality, more loving life. relationship, and a more loving world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my job. That's my job. Cleanse my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to focus on it too much, but see the weeds in my thinking. What's the
Mm-hmm.
gnarly stuff? What's the, in psych terms, what are the incorrect thoughts? In meta terms, we'd say, what are the low vibe thoughts? What are the heavy thoughts? And then I'm going to use my free will because I'm a grown up and I can do that to think higher vibration thoughts and have a better life, a better life.
Yeah, in the midst of the chaos, which is kind of like what Ram Dass always talks about. Be in the midst of the cosmos and the chaos. That's it right now for me, is being aware that I can have that equanimity at all times. But
Okay.
you, more than just about anyone I've witnessed from afar, um, have really embodied that. You've spoken very openly and honestly about your dark night of the soul. And I mean, I don't know if you want to share anything on that. I'm going through mine. I'm 2.5 years in. I guess it's turned into some sort of an awakening. That's how it feels. I don't know what that means. It's not special. It's fucking terrifying. It's deconstructing. It's dismantling. It's beautiful. It's exhilarating. It's all of it, right? But
And
this,
yet you podcast.
well,
Here.
I podcast actually. This is where I can be most honest about it.
Mm-mm.
It's like, because I'm finding that we, our lights, are finding one another in the midst of our individual deconstructions, where we are actually emerging as our most authentic selves. But in any given day, we don't really know that, but it's like, okay, I'm doing the best I can, which is something else that you talk about. I think you just sent an email. I love your content. I devour your content. It's always soul food. But when I read that, I think it was yesterday, I was going through something gnarly yet again, another relationship thing, right? And you were like, this is it. This is it. And it was like, I'm doing the best I can. And that has everything to do with even having the audacity to have vision, and in terms of how you've helped me.
Mm-mm.
Um, yeah,
The thing with I'm doing the best I can, which I say is the most spiritual, enlightened thing I can say to myself, I'm doing my best.
that's right.
You have to be declaring that from your heart and not from your ego and your wounded self. So like the wounded self will say it's kind of rebellious. It's a little kind of got a little screw you tone to the world. It's like I'm doing the best I can. It's
Yes.
like kind of get off me, back off. It's very kind of divisive.
Yeah.
Whereas, the loving tone,
Mhm.
you as the mother of your reality will say, I'm actually doing my best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Even if you're a couch potato, that is the best you got at that moment. Could be better 5 minutes from now. You can always be asking yourself, okay, that was my best I had. Could it be better tomorrow, tonight? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. So for me, in that moment of reading it, maybe it was social. I can't remember exactly. I'm doing my best, and having come off of reading an email that was definitely accusing me not, just to take it really personal for a moment. And I really reflected. I mean, if there's anything I've learned these past 2.5 years, own my part, right? Like, see it from all angles and love, let go, integrate, forgive, see everyone in their innocence and love. And so as I was doing that, I was like, I can do that for her, but how about me? You know? And
Mm-hmm.
that was the interesting part. And it was like, and it was like, I really am doing my best. My best today might not be my best tomorrow, but right now, right? Like, and there's other moments when I'm like, I wasn't my best, and so learning those distinctions are really important. They're essential.
Us seeing that we're not doing our best is us becoming more conscious.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Because you could do the low vibe crap thing and actually celebrate yourself. You could glorify your shitty behavior. But us saying, oof, that was a
Yo,
little off track. That was a little left of heart centered.
totally.
That's a moment of luminosity. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Which brings me to my all-time favorite thing you talk about. You've talked about it on your show with Love, Danielle, which is your awesome podcast, which we will link to. And it's radiance is the gift that suffering brings. In weeks, I want you to expand, because nothing like hearing it from you. I will link to that particular episode, but that has been my experience of the last 2.5 years. And you only know it if you've gone to the depths of what I know you're going to share about. And I think this leads to the light inside the vision that we're really threading a theme on right now? Okay. Hmm.
Um, there's a beautiful quote from this female Eastern mystic. Her name is Ananda Mai Ma, who said, "Suffering is the end of suffering." I was like, wow, there's something in there, but I need to wrap my head around it. And I think her teaching was that, once you go through it and you see how much the suffering reveals, you
Yeah.
don't, things don't occur to you as suffering anymore or as much. It's
Mm.
like, this is, I'll just put this in like, you, I'll choose different words for this. It's like instead of seeing things as suffering, we see them as this is a challenge. And then behind the challenge, you go, this is going to expand me. Doesn't mean it's not agonizing, doesn't mean there's not stress and fear and all those things, but it's a different relationship to the hardships. That's actually resiliency.
Mm.
Radiance is when you get to the other side of having your ego decimated. And so, in our new age space, we think we kind of have this like radiance is this shiny thing. And of course, if, happiness, sweetness, it's got a shimmer to it.
Mm.
But sometimes I think, we're pushing ourselves to show up and be the bright, happy, shiny, glammy, influency person in the room. That's ego. And we may be all those things in the room, but you can be it from a heart centered place.
Mm-hmm.
My experience of radiance is loss.
Mm.
And so, wow, I thought that relationship made me great. I thought that purse was going to make me more valuable. Like, can't you see? Like, I've worked hard. Look at this purse, that house, those likes, that approval. And this can get so nuanced and deep. Like,
Mm.
we really want approval from the divine, right? Like on some level, I'm playing for God.
Yeah.
And I think we all know, I mean, everybody listening now, don't you know somebody who got fired or got betrayed or got through the other side of a diagnosis
Mm.
or had some kind of cancel experience or some kind of public humiliation?
Mm-hmm.
And they were just so lovely after that. That's radiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Oh, no more masks.
watched all of those in the past, many years.
Mm.
And I don't know if I occur loving all the time, but I know I'm better than I was. And that's all I can hope for and pray for every day. And what you talked about earlier about, we're all like seeking the divine. I feel like for me, it's like this reconciliation of my soul longs to be home and definitely have these thoughts of this is tough. This is tough to be here on this planet at this time. And then I have to remember I chose this. And so the reconciliation for me is just continuing to surrender to the divine. And what I find, and this is where I was really hoping to go with you, so we're beautifully going this way, is that the more that I truly surrender, and I don't get it all perfect, I still have no idea how to show up on social, not a freaking clue. But I just keep figuring a little bit out, right? A little bit here and there, but it's this is no longer my will. And I'll give you an example. I thought these last 2.5 years was that I was supposed to be like in the midst of the dark night, some sort of an awakening, which I learned from Adyashanti. There's all these different types and there's dynamics and context and texture inside different awakenings. And how does anyone have it cornered? No one does, because it's your own unique awakening. And I didn't even know I was in one for about a year and a half, right? I just thought I was having a psychotic break, all of that. And so I thought I was supposed to be a spiritual teacher. I
Mm.
thought that's what it was all about. And it was only about a month ago where I got this very clear knowing that no, that is not your path. You've been given these gifts. They're your gifts. They're been bestowed to you. Everything is spiritual, Michelle. Let's be clear. And so go and own your gifts. You've dismissed and denied them because I didn't think they were spiritual. Does that make sense?
So what gifts are you owning that you thought weren't
Well,
spiritual?
I am a natural born communicator, articulator. Like I help a lot of people activate their gifts, you know. So I've helped a lot of people make a really beautiful, genuine, authentic impact online through my $222 million of live sales experience. I didn't want to own that. It was like, ew, it just felt so off brand of whatever the brand was of the awakening. Makes sense? It was like so confusing in there. And I've helped a lot of people, over 200 students, go through our podcast accelerator experience, share their voice, their vision, their message. And I basically was kind of like, yeah, I'm probably going to, like, you know, that's leaving. I'm going to just do the spiritual. That's what I'm talking about. And it
Yeah.
was realizing I've helped a lot of, not helped, I have been a wonderful guide in my own power because that stuff comes so naturally to me. It doesn't come as naturally for others, right? And so, and that is where I feel most alive, most activated, like my soul feels sparkly. And it's not ego. I'm able to discern. I'm like, and then now I'm just weaving all the consciousness, the spirituality that was always there. I've been a lifelong student of this. It just has a different dimension these days. Does that resonate for you with what you went through 5, 6 years ago when you were experiencing the beginning of the dark night? And, you know, it's not like you just suddenly paradigm shift. It's there's a deeper
Uh-huh.
meaning. Yes.
This is what I learned about the Dark Knight is that there are some hallmark characteristics to it.
Mhm.
Like I thought divorce, miscarriage, those life challenging things were dark nights. No, actually, they weren't. Those were challenging, agonizing, transformative things. This is what I learned. Dark Night of the Soul is characterized by a huge dissolution of the ego.
Yes.
You do not know who you are going to be on the other side.
Yes.
And so people question all of their beliefs and their sexuality and their religion. And when I went through my night, I was just like, am I going to, well, I had some suicidal ideation.
Same.
There was that.
Mhm.
That was very influenced by hormonal imbalance. And I had to
Mhm.
get that, I had to get the physical stuff in check and I could think more clearly. So ladies, like depending where you are, I hear it in the like late 40s, 50s, just like I'm thinking about all these dark things. I'm just like, yeah, you need to get your lab work done and we fix the brain first. And then you have the resources to deal more easily with the spiritual stuff, the real stuff. Um, so there's a deep questioning and I don't know if I'm going to work after this. I don't know if I'm going to live in this neighborhood. I don't know if we're still going to be married. I don't know if I'm going to, you don't know. And it's very discombobulating. And you don't know how long this is going to last. Am I going to be in this for 5 years? Is this 6 months? I remember I went and did a 4-ish day intensive with my psychotherapist. We're doing a bunch of EMDR, working on some trauma stuff. And I remember standing in the kitchen with her and holding both of her hands. I was bawling my eyes out for 4 days. And I just like, how long is this going to last? And,
Mhm.
she's the real deal. So she's not going to say, oh, no time at all. But she also wants to give me some comfort in that moment. And
Mhm.
she just said, Danielle, this is what we know about you. You burn through things quickly.
Mhm.
So there's that. And I think we could do this in under a year, maybe six months, things are going to look really different. And I just like, I'm going to go with that. And yeah, and I remember one of my darkest points, I was staying at a Christian retreat center because I could get in and it was very monastic. I love all that stuff. I'm part nun.
Yeah.
I would go out into the woods at night
Mm.
and just lie on the ground and just pour my pain, literally have the soil, the moss
Mhm.
soak up my tears and just beg for the mother.
Mm.
Just like, you're big, you're large, you house billions of people. Could you just take my pain?
Yeah. Beautiful. That was me and the moon every night for 9 months and my 10 months in my mom's backyard when I left Santa Monica. Everything was in disillusion. And for me, it
Mm.
wasn't the hormones as much because I had thankfully gotten those regulated a few years earlier, but it was the alcohol and then the cigarettes.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know how much that was interfering with me just being able to like be in my body fully embodied, right? Which, of course, looking back, it's obvious, but so I quit everything cold turkey, including any sort of TV for me or news, right? Because mine
Yes.
was spawned during the lockdowns. Someone opened the red pill door, at a fancy business mastermind in Sedona, Arizona, the best place for it to happen. I didn't know her. I don't know her since. She opened the door. I was ready. It was time for my soul to go through this experience. And I mean, yeah, it was rough, rough, rough. Totally surrendered. And I didn't work. I didn't know how to drive a car. I didn't know who I was. I still am just beginning to shape, right? Or it's being revealed. But what
Mm.
spawned yours, if there was anything?
It was a series of things. So there was the hormonal imbalance that was a result of overwork. So my cortisol levels were so out of whack. I
Mm,
had adrenal fatigue.
mhm.
I also had on and off, as it goes, Epstein-Barr virus. So I would have flare-ups of that. And then the body is it's just hard. It's like there were some nights I just thought, I'm going to sleep in the living room because I can't walk upstairs to my bedroom. So there was all the health,
Yeah, yeah,
actual physical challenge, and then the mental stress of the health stuff.
yeah.
And then I had a very public, extensive cancel culture experience situation. I was really kind of in our space, one of the first to kind of go through that wall. And, lots of beautiful learning and all of that. But you can hear like the stress building up. And then there was a romance that was like this just such a mind fuck, really. There's no other way to put it. It would just um
Mm,
so confusing.
there
It
you
was
go.
so confusing.
Well, of course it would be confusing. Yeah. It would have been confusing even if you were clear, that kind of a relationship, but you
That's
were clear.
right. That's right. And it
Out of all
looked all
fairness.
shiny and it just had this is I remember my shrink Anne saying to me afterwards, she's like, yeah, you showed me that photo of him and told me what he did for a living. And I thought, this is
Uh-oh.
it. Here we go.
Yeah.
Because it looked
And I'm
amazing.
sure it felt amazing.
Yeah. And it was actually so super damaging. I mean,
Mm.
I repaired and all that stuff, but it was just so not okay. So there was that.
Mhm.
And then it was just time. Like those circumstances added up to the dam bursting, but
Yeah.
it needed to happen anyway. If I didn't have those things, something else would have come. It would have been some kind of health challenge or something. And for me, it was, I'd say, 3 months of pure, absolute hell
Mm.
and 6 months of hellish
Mhm.
and about a year of what the fuck. And I came out the other side and
Mm.
I was less the small me and
Yeah.
I was more the true me, closer to my higher self. I
Mm.
realized all the things that got me through, all the practices were the things I should be doing on a daily basis. Like this is the crises practices are great things to just do a little bit of every day. You meditate, you go breathe fresh air, you reach out to people who love you, you check on people, you do loving things. And, I did a class this morning with my heart centered people, my membership. And one of the questions I asked them was, what's one thing you're withholding from yourself and others?
Mm.
And everybody answers it personally. And then we kind of do a group thing like, anybody want to share? And what I'm withholding from myself is Shavasana. Like,
So relate. Like, why would I withhold that from myself? It's my favorite thing. I
and
so
that
relate.
is what I learned in the depths. I was so messed up.
Mm.
I was dying. And The best thing for me was I just lay down on my living room floor
Mm.
and do nothing.
That's Shavasana, by the way.
Receive, just
Yeah.
receive.
And know that you're being held by the Divine Mother, you know. That for me is the sort of finishing touch on that. And that's a really powerful question. I love that. Sounds like it was about 9 months of hell, almost hell, and then a year of like, what the heck? And then what? Because what I know for sure right now is not only is there a lot of death energy, which is really transformational. Thank God for Ram Dass getting us present to the death conversation, the death transmutation, right? After death, rebirth. And I'm experiencing that almost on a daily, truly. Um, but it's this frequency of let me trace my thought again because a lot just wanted to come through because I got Ram Dass in my head all of a sudden. But I was talking about um,
You were going to like what now? I think is where we were going. Like what's on the other side?
thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that, good friend. And it's a lot of people are going through this awakening. They really are. They may not even be fully aware of it because that term, I think on some level needs to be normalized, not losing the reverence, but there's a lot of it happening right now, right? And so what I like to share with anyone, because I tend to draw people who are whatever, questioning it in it. You can tell if someone's really in it by some of the things they say. But I don't want to judge anyone's perception either. So it's like just trust. The clarity will come. It's been over 2+ years for me. The clarity's just beginning to show up. And so when did that shift or how did that shift begin to reveal? We're like, okay, or like I'm gonna be all right. I can write again, I can teach again, I can grow again, I can love again. I
Mm-hmm.
can take Shavasana again.
I feel like had to get 2 years away from the meltdown, and I still count it. I'm just like, yeah, 5 years ago in May.
Me too. It's like my sober date.
Yes, yes,
Totally.
yes.
That it's the most important date.
Yeah.
August 6th, 2021 is when I thought I was literally having a psychotic break, PTSD. I was paranoid, you know. And then I was attracting a lot of that, like homeless in Santa Monica, which I have always gotten along with. I'm so connected. Food, get like just I served at Chrysalis, a nonprofit, to get the homeless off the streets and into jobs and shelter. And I served there for 4 years of volunteer. But all of a sudden, they were lunging out at me right from the bushes, or throwing bricks at my dog, or pooping on my car. And I was like, "Oh, I'm in something, right?" Because this is a big shift. Granted, it was radically changing in Santa Monica, which spawned the exit. Not to mention, I was like the only one who wasn't believing everything I heard on TV. This was like right at the beginning of the lockdowns, but it
Mhm.
was the perfect thing. But as I look back, it was actually 6 months before then. I didn't know that when that door was open, that's what was really happening. But in that 6 months, I don't remember a moment from that 6 months because
Yes.
there was too much fear. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think, it's important. Like we don't want to over label ourselves, but to be able to say, like, you were paranoid. That can be really freeing. Like the energy, the energy healer I was working with and who's still a huge part of my life, at one point said, Danielle, this is neurotic behavior. And it snapped me out of it. I was like, whoa, I am vibing low. This is oh my gosh, I am being neurotic.
Mhm.
And it was just like very sobering. It's like someone saying, this is addictive. This is, I just, okay, I
Yeah.
got to get it together. So, your confrontations with homeless living folks, that's, you're vibing low so
Yeah.
that you can ride. You're cleaning out your barrel. We're going to attract it. I also think, is this a contradiction? No, it's not a contradiction. I also think that like in that cleansing, we're getting our own dark stuff out. So much light is coming into the cleansing, and the darkness will rile against that.
Yeah. Holds on.
It doesn't want the shine, the real radiance to happen.
Yeah.
And so we spar a bit with the characters, the dark characters,
Oh my
until
God.
you get to the other side and you're just like, I'm light, I'm full, I got so much love running through my system. And we attract way more of that. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so true. I mean, in that moment, it was a couple months later. There was still such a resonance for the dark, for the fear. It was really the fear. I had no idea how much anxiety was running my whole life.
Mm.
That was a deep, deep, beautiful offering that I had revealed through my divine team at my altar. So, one of the gifts also of the past 2.5 years is letting go of the TV, replacing it with a beautiful sacred altar and really doing the work. And I get beckoned. I don't just go. It cannot feel like a mandate. It's like I know when I'm beckoned and I know it's time to clean or to clear, to commune, right? And I know you're smiling because I know that you get the gift of the sacred altar. So as we begin to wrap, because I want to keep you on time, my friend, is there any ritual or practice around sacred altar? Because a lot of my listeners are beginning to work with their sacred altar. Anything that you've found that's been beneficial for the masses that are maybe just beginning to listen at their altar?
Oh, I have so much to say about altars.
Oh, good.
You mean actual altars, right? You're not
Altar,
talking about a
altar.
metaphor. Okay.
No, actual physical altar.
Okay. Uh, Here's one layer of this. When I was in my dark place, my psychotherapist was like, you need to put life affirming things on your altar.
Mm.
And I put images of spring and more flat, like I just loaded that up. It was just plentiful. I had dolls, I had images of me as a child. I had, um, little Danielle on my screensaver, on my phone saver, those kind of things. So there was that. Okay. We have a practice in our membership community. I have an offering called Heart Centered Altar. And here's the basics of an altar.
Mm.
There's two kinds of altars. One, there's an altar that you set up that is meant to serve as like this acupuncture point on the planet. It's for you, it's for others. It's not just like a little wishing well. There's nothing cute about like, oh, I'm just going to put on these fun photos of Virgin Mary and my dog. Okay. Although those are sweet things to have, those little visual vignettes throughout your home. Because you look at the Virgin Mary and you look at the dog and you go, love, 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 love. Okay. But we're talking, let's go for real here. So there's this kind of altar, which I'll give you some ideas about how we build it. And then there are actual consecrated altars where
Mm.
you're working with an energy healer or a really kind of
Shaman.
masterful being,
Yeah.
and they bless it up and it really does become its own little power center. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
And then it really extra matters what you put on. But here's the fundamentals of what we call the heart-centered altar. Um, here are the do nots. You do not put your altar in the bedroom. You do not put your altar in the bathroom. Why not the bedroom? Because it's a place for astral energy. You sleep, and good things and not so good things are coming in and out of your consciousness when you're sleeping. It's a place for sex. Sex is holy, but not all. We just don't want the altar in the bedroom. Bathroom, obviously, not the most sacred place. Now, lots of people say, I live in a small house. I'm doing a trailer. What can I do? Well, then you just do it wherever you got it because its intention is going to trump all this. Ideally, you're going to have all of the elements on your altar. You're going to have some earth, some water element, some fire element, and some air element. So, a cup of soil, a plant, flowers, a vessel of water, some incense. I've had all the questions about altars, so I could say, so what if you are sensitive to incense? We'll just have it as a representation.
Yes.
And then you put on all your sacred things. You put on your deities and your photo of your dog and the people you want to bless and your sacred Buddhist, whatever has meaning for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't mess with it.
Mm.
You leave your altar. So you want to tend to your altar every week. So I dust my altar. I put on new flowers. I might put on a new candle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a living organism.
Yes.
But don't keep adding to the mix. We refresh if you want to take something off, like, okay, I manifested this, or I don't relate to this anymore. I got it covered. I'm going to remove this, or I'm going to add something that's about a new prayer. You do that on solstices and equinoxes and new moons when the
Mm-hmm.
planets are in your favor to really vivify and like pump up that energy. Like you work with it. So I don't mess around. Like I mean business with my altar. And then here's two more things. Um, my altar is in a place in my home. Nobody knows where it is. I
Mm.
mean, my son knows and my man knows, but it's veiled, it's hidden. You can put your altar in a closet. You could put your altar in a cupboard.
Mhm.
It's altars are not about showing off. If you have it in your living room, because that's the best direction,
Mhm.
great. We don't need to draw attention to it.
Mhm.
I would not recommend photographing your altar and splashing it all over social media. You get people projecting their energy on it. Just don't. It's a
Mhm.
really sacred, quiet thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, I've learned so much of that and some other things too from you. And that was the basis, that was the foundation for me understanding how to put an altar together. And mine is in my living room, but I live alone and I don't really have anyone over. That's just the way I really love it. So it's me and my fur fam. It faced the east. There's been some profound, sober shamanic journeys.
Mm,
Sometimes I'll be beckoned to my altar at 1 a.m. and I don't go to bed late. 10 p.m. is usually my time. And sometimes I'll be awakened and it's time to go and clean. And I'll be like, I thought I was good. Like, I'm like patting myself down, like, I'm good. Like, I don't know of a relationship. I don't know of a thought or a past moment. And then 20 minutes in, I'm sobbing and cleansing and clearing something. And it's just so sacred. So I'm with you on this is business. And it
mm,
feels like to me, the ultimate way to fully surrender. I mean, there are a lot of different ways. Nature, there's so many different ways, but for me, it's my surrender to the divine, right? It's how I'm able to hear. And then I'm also finding lately my team likes to give me ideas, also like simplicity. Like, what about that? If I was like, not sure exactly how to navigate that or birth that, and I will suddenly get ideas. Not always, but it's just I never know what's going to happen, and it's a delight, and it's deep reverence for the altar, yeah,
mhm,
and for our ability to connect and to commune with the divine, which makes this time not so scary, right?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Just all that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I'd love to know what you would like to share. What can my listeners know that you've got going on where they might want to come over and enjoy
Mm,
this beautiful
mm.
vibe?
Well, I just burned down my business in the
I
last
know.
month. So
You blew it
it's a
up,
different
girl. It's pretty
business. It's a
amazing.
different, yeah. I reinvented everything in about, yeah, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
lots
talking to the
happening.
studs. I want to be clear on that too. To the studs.
To the
Team,
studs. Yeah. New
most
team.
offerings, agents, publisher, right? Like everything. I'm just like, I'm watching you. I'm like, go, Danielle. That's
Mhm.
what's on the other side of being willing to face off with the deepest fears. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's not placid. That's for sure. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know who I'm going to be 6 months from now. Like everything I've just put into place, it's got to work. Yeah,
I honor
and,
you deeply.
yeah,
It's gonna work. Well, it's every. I mean, really, I know we say this, but really, truly, it's in divine order. You know
yeah.
what I love about what you wrote recently in one of your books was, if that meant I'd live on ramen, I live on ramen, right? Like I did it in your 20s, I can do it again, and I so related when I was like, I haven't made $1 in 9 months, and then what I'm trying to do is not working. Which, by the way, I just discovered a month ago. I'm like, get back into your gifts, it's like and I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's like a complete surrender over and over. But that's what so many are going through, where we're on this authentic path of like being willing to burn it all down. So yes, please share. I interrupted. So I just
Um, well, I'm doing a heart-centered mastermind. Like I had a licensing model and I've done away with it. I didn't feel heart-centered anymore. Out of that is this whole leadership curriculum and a mastermind that we're going to be doing that's about being a more heart-centered leader. And I'm super in love with all of my members in the Heart Centered membership. And yeah, come on over.
Okay, when does is the mastermind open, or will it be open?
October. Oh, wow. The page is up now.
Okay,
I,
great. I will be sure to link that in the show notes because this is going to come out next week. I'm so
oh,
excited.
cool. Cool, cool.
My friend, I'm so excited for you. I know we've only met in person once, but I just feel
Oh,
like a light knows a light. Yeah, I'm like, I love you. I'm
yeah.
I'm honoring deeply your path on every level. Thank you for leading the way with such authenticity and transparency and fucking courage. I never use the F word hardly ever these days, but that deserved an F word right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
I love you.
I love you. Bye, honey.